Here's a little bit of advice for finishing off your solve after you've reduced the cube to a 3x3 state. Okay, so my first tip is for when you're transitioning into the 3x3 stage. So here we have edge parity, so we need to go ahead and perform the edge parity algorithm. However, because we do that mindlessly and subconsciously because we fully know the algorithm, then what we can do is actually take a quick look before we execute this and check out where our edge pieces are. So this would be like half a second maximum, and even while you're doing it, you can try and look ahead for where our cross edges will be. So here, let's say we've got this as our last case. We see this white, and that this is a white edge. So we'll go ahead and note that when we finish the algorithm, those edges will all be in the same place. So this edge is back here solved, this one is here, and this one is here. So we can go straight in, solve our cross, and notice that this one is down here. And it's sometimes okay to actually solve the cross on the top. Because in regular 3x3 solves you have 15 seconds of inspection, it's a little bit unfamiliar to actually be solving a cross with little to no inspection time. So the main thing is don't worry too much about making the cross in an optimal manner. So don't beat yourself up if you take 10 or 11 moves to solve the cross and you maybe only solve 2 cross edges at a time and then solve the last 2 after that. It's a lot tougher with no inspection, and sometimes, yeah, it's really not realistic to plan out your entire cross in the moment. So basically what I recommend doing is just take a quick glance after you finish your edges, take a quick glance and locate your 4 cross edges. So I see there, there, and there. And like I said before, it's okay to do it on the top sometimes if that's easier. So here we've got, this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I'll take a quick glance, I would put this one in, and then maybe do a UR, and then transition, and then do an F''D for the last one. And planning cross with little to no inspection is a skill that needs to be developed, but it takes a lot of time. The face on which you build the cross will also sometimes depend on where your centers are after you finish pairing up the edges. So for example, here, if you're a white cross solver, you've got these two which are correctly positioned relative to one another, so they do an R', F'. We've got the white center built on the D layer, then it doesn't really make too much sense to rotate, put it on the top layer, and then do these two. So you can keep it on the D layer and just check out where the other two are. So there's a white edge there and a white edge there. And what you should do is notice that this one, to be aligned with these two, needs to go across with a D, then do an R', F', and then this one goes in the back, B2, D2, like that. For color neutral solvers, doing the cross is even more difficult because in addition to planning the cross, you also need to choose the cross color on which you're going to solve it. So here, and my general tendency is actually to choose the side that's on the bottom. So say I finish my edges like this, I'll check out the bottom and see if there's an edge already oriented in the bottom layer, then it's a pretty easy decision for me to just go ahead and do that. So let's say we've got this one, and I locate my others in half a second or so, and then start doing the cross. And again, don't worry too much about efficiency. Obviously here I had a lot of time to actually be efficient and plan out that cross entirely. But in a solve, yeah, if I see an edge that's already oriented on the bottom layer, then I'm inclined to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, if I see something really easy, like, ignoring this one, if I have these two edges already on the front layer or some on the top, then I'll go ahead and either do the front or the top. But I don't really want to be rotating all around the cube to choose a cross color, because particularly when you have no inspection, it's even more difficult to choose a cross color. So again, for color neutral solvers, I'll probably take a brief look at the front and bottom layers and see if there's some edges already oriented in that layer and then go with that. Otherwise, it's pretty freeform. So another tip for 3x3 stage is to know what your bias is. So if you're quite right-hand dominant on the 3x3 cube, then it's important to kind of be aware of this on the 5x5, because particularly on 5x5, changing your grip from turning RU all the way to LU is quite a big shift, and depending on how your finger tricks are, this might require essentially a full regrip and can be quite awkward. So either kind of practice switching grips from that to that and doing that quickly, or resolve to stick to right-handed stuff for the most part, because yeah, as the cube gets bigger, it's more and more difficult to actually use your opposite hand, and some people are naturally better at it than other people. So an example of this is on the 3x3 cube. If I have this F2L case with this corner and this edge, then I would probably rotate to put it into the back and leave my front 2 slots open and solve it like that. But on a 5x5 cube, if I'm in this position, I'd be far more inclined to actually rotate this way and then do the pair like that because of my grip and how I put my thumb on the front face. So yeah, check out your grip and see whether you're particularly right-hand dominant, and then I guess just make sure you're using that to your advantage and not using too many awkward moves during your 3x3 stage. So if you're a right-hander, yeah, F, U, and R moves will all be pretty comfortable. In addition to that, you need to also make sure that your PLL algorithms are quite comfortable. On Cube Skills, we have a Big Cube PLL algorithm sheet, which highlights some algorithms you can use which are more comfortable for bigger cubes. So an example of those is the E-permutation. So doing the E-permutation like we would on a 3x3, or the main 3x3 algorithm uses a lot of D moves with this finger trick, and that can be quite awkward to do on a 5x5 because the layer is a bit smaller. So instead, there's quite a fast RUF algorithm, which goes like this. So R2U, R prime, U prime, rotate, sexy move times 2, RU, R prime, RU prime, R2 prime, like that. And that's a lot faster and a lot safer on the 5x5 cube and bigger cubes. So I hope these tips helped with your 3x3 stage on the 5x5.